so much. There's been so many successes already in the Illinois General Assembly for him. He's going to work. He's going to work hard for the community, for the people he loves, for the district that he serves. And he's faced with challenges, as we all are, from city to city, state to state, globally. Challenges are aplenty. But I assure you, our Rep. Lamont Robinson has been very successful at securing resources for his district, and I want to give him thumbs up for that. We have a very special occasion here tonight. We have former presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg. I wish I had a clap track helping us to carry the night away, and also my girl, Congresswoman Robin Kelly, and she's going to be joining us tonight. We want to thank them in advance. Also, I want to thank our supporters, Senator Tammy Duckworth, U.S. Rep. Chuy Garcia, Representative Danny Davis, Illinois Senator Maggie Hunter, Alderman Pat Dow, William Cates. We want to thank them for supporting this event here tonight, and we couldn't do it without them. Now, it's virtual, and you know what that means. I just think that there are a lot of reasons why virtual is good. For me, like the dressing room is really close, so it wasn't far, yay for that. But I mean, you get to kick back in your privacy of your own home, get your favorite cocktail or do whatever that you like to do, and get a chance to enjoy yourself in a relaxed environment. So, thumbs up for the virtual event.
All right, just put on like.
Get used to it, because we're going to be doing this for a while, you guys. We have some losses, and I just want to pause and acknowledge the great Reverend C.T. Vivian and Representative John Lewis, champions. And for me, they built a well that I'm drinking out of that I didn't dig in. So it's been very important to understand how, for our young folks to go forward, carry that torch and rock the vote and make sure that you are represented. I mean, we can't let those two legacies pass without mentioning that. All right, so Lamont has done a great job in his first term in the General Assembly, and we know what he's going to do in his second term, so I'm very excited about that. We have a Chicagoan. We have some entertainment that we're going to present right now. She's a Chicagoan, and this is virtual. Anything can happen. Remember that. If it happens, if it can happen, it will happen. So right now, I would like to introduce a poet. Her name is Quinn. She's on the South Side, and she writes about her experiences. She said, her poems center on social justice, racism, sexism, break culture, gun violence. And for Quinn, she says poetry makes the truth sound beautiful and less painful. I like that. Poetry makes the truth sound beautiful and less painful. She has videos on her YouTube channel. She's been featured in the Huffington Post, Blavity, The Tribe, the Chicago Reader. She's been traveling. She's been to California State University, over to Germany and Cameroon. She is an experienced performer. And she's also been right here in the South Side of Chicago at the Silver Room. She's a young author winner, and she's here with us tonight. Let's welcome her right now into your living room. Please put your hands together. We can't hear you. For Quinn and Quinnology.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm really grateful to be here and make up space. I'm going to share a poem with you guys tonight about my first love. It's called Wendy.
It's called what?
Oh, it's called Wendy. I am from Chicago. I am in love with the city that has a funny way of showing that she loves me back, but do not look at me like a living testimony as if I have escaped the beast that had a tight hold on me. No, Wendy, she ain't like that. She never was. You see, hurt people, and hurt cities, well, they hurt people a little harder, and Wendy is hurt. But for his conspiracy, she had to swallow. Crime she had to commit. Childless dreams she had to burn. All she wanted to do is burn blunts, blow trees, and do poetry, and be free like the summertime. But that was before, life got to the best of her. Before mayors and cops started running games on her, more people, less homes, more kids, less schools, more drugs, less food, giving up tools to create a mind of genocide. And since there ain't no books to read, you might as well go to that corner and sling something. Loose squares, weed. Since there ain't no food on the table, you might as well steal something. And since there ain't no solution, you might as well kill something, because nowadays guns are just as easy to pick up like gum, and everybody wants a piece of that sweet, cold, metallic action, pull the trigger. Is to see someone's dreams bleach to the concrete. Her mind hasn't been right. She refuses to recognize the people of the ghetto. We are the scum of the city. She got to take the trash out. And she does it so easily. Each alleyway is another accident. Each headline is another chalk outline on corner stores. Still don't carry first aid kits, so praying mamas try to use blessings for band-aids, prayer to apply pressure on wound, because even Jesus Christ himself died too soon. So you see, Black people, we are used to crying and dying. Mourning in the morning is something we know how to do well. And in Chicago, Wendy continues to bury us like we are seeds, but I love her. I loved her ever since I was young, and I could see the whole world from the green line just for a $5 day pass with my daddy. Back when being in programs like After School Matters mattered, and being a skinny superstar could actually take you far. And every time my friends visit, they can't help but fall in love with her too. Her skyline smile screams dedication, so makes sense why I stayed committed in spite of the pain inflicted. I remember when she first laid her hands on me. She choked me. Hands for corruption or crime, I promise you, I saw the glint of greed in her eye, and when I screamed to let me breathe, she only wanted me to see the back of my head. I think I was 15 when I should have been dead. Each time I ran to her about another one of my friends graduating to that afterlife, she only said that she had no choice. That she would rather kill her own children than let some George Zimmerman kill again. That it's better to die in alleyways and stoops in the backseat, cooped up police car like Freddie Gray. That it is better to die in playground than be dangling from tree branch like Emmett Till. And still, I am grateful for these bruises and abuses. But y'all probably think I'm stupid. Repping my city proudly when all she's done is killed my friends and family, but y'all don't know her like I do. How her skyline smile screams dedication. Legs as long as a magnificent mile, hair as curly as any summertime sky. Don't tell me I should ever leave her. 773 to the death of me, and even then you still be able to see the south side in my stitches, the Inglewood in my veins. So know if something was to happen to me tonight, know that I will be honored to die in the arms of my city, my first love, my Wendy. That's that piece. Thank you all so much. I'm gonna put my socials in the chat. Thank you.
Snap, snap, snap for Quinn. Yes, great job. Quinnology. Quinn is working on her 3rd book, and she's going to be also attending Western Illinois, working on your master's degree. Yes, in higher education. I love it. Congratulations, Quinn. You know, poetry is the voice. It is the voice of the urban, and really that is the foundation of rap music to another level, but that is the foundation. It's a way for them to express themselves through words. I love it. You go, Quinn, you go. Make sure that you follow her. Her website is quinnology.com. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Snap, snap. All right, our next person coming to the camera is Congresswoman Robin Kelly. She may not know me. I've seen her for years, and I've just been in awe of her. I'm always enamored at how she has really reached into the community and been a voice for the underserved, period, since she started. She's dedicated her life to working for helping professions. She says she uses her skills to advocate to improve the lives of those in her community and beyond. She has the Keller report on gun violence in America. We all should be paying attention to that, because every day we see that number increase. We see more and more gun violence going on. So she's helped organize the gun violence prevention sit-in in Congress, and they advocate for stronger gun safety laws. She's got the Robbins Reader Initiative, and she's secured thousands of books for local schools and libraries, and she's been doing that for a while. She's recouped millions in federal dollars for second district families. She served as the chief administrative officer in Cook County. She has a BA in psychology, a master's in counseling, her PhD in political science, and she's an active member of the Sigma Gamma Rho sorority. She's married to Dr. Nathaniel Horn. She's got 2 kids and 1 grandson. Please welcome into your home right now, Congresswoman Robin Kelly.
Thank you so much, Dana. Hey, everybody. Good to see everybody. I am in Washington, D.C. Wanted to give a shout out. I saw Madam President Winkle, and hey, Mayor Pete. Long time no see. Hope you're well. I am so honored and pleased to be here for my friend Lamont, who has definitely hit the ground running. And I just want to thank everybody for supporting him. If you want good people in office, you have to support good people. It is not easy to run. It takes guts and courage to step out and run for any office. And we are so happy that Lamont found his guts and courage and fortitude and ran for office. He has definitely, I can tell you, hit the ground running. He is not wasting any time. He's been a mover and a shaker, and he's secured $15 million for LGBTQ Center, and also $2 million for Southside African American Arts Center. So thank you so much for both of those very worthy resources, and we need both of those centers. You did a great job. That's wonderful, especially for your first term. I still remember way back when my first term as a state rep. I did want to let you know, and Madam President know, that we are working really hard here under tough circumstances, because we all love Democrat and Republican John Lewis, and it's been really tough to be back here without him. We had a moment of silence yesterday, and tomorrow we'll have 3 hours of testimony from, of course, the CBC and Democrats, other Democrats and Republicans, just thinking about John. Like you said, get into good trouble, stand up, speak out, and get in the way when it's necessary to do that. And I think, Lamont, you exemplify that, what John Lewis thinks is good trouble and good things to do. But I wanted to let you know that we are working on passing the HEROES Act. We may not pass everything, but we definitely want to pass what will come to cities, towns, the county, and the state of Illinois. We know that the county and small towns and the state have lost sales tax, have had to spend money that you guys didn't know you had to spend. So we think with some arm twisting, we can at least get that out and a few other things out. We just have to keep the pressure on the Senate so we can get money, back to all levels of government. Also, we're working on approach now. So hopefully, there's no earmarks, but there will be other monies coming back for different things that the city, county, and the state need. I know, Lamont, that you also passed a poverty bill, which is something near and dear to my heart, and you're working on licensing for police. And we know that we passed a George Floyd Policing Act in Congress. And well, again, we're waiting for Mitch McConnell to make his move and to pass it, because we know that there's a lot of work to do there. We know there's, we don't put one broad brush on all of law enforcement, but we know that there's a lot of work that we have to do, and we intend on getting that done. And the other thing, in John Lewis's honor, the voting rights bill, we're going to call the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And, a lot of people are sad that John is gone, but we need to honor him with action. We have to vote. We can't take anything for granted, which hopefully we've learned by now. On every level of government, we have to vote. And the other thing is, anyone who's listening, we have to fill out the census. If COVID has shown us anything, we need money, you know, for healthcare, infrastructure, for education, for our roads and bridges. So we really need, even if you filled yours out already, make sure you tell someone else to fill out theirs. We're already going to lose one seat in Congress, which we've done for, I think, 5 decades now. But if people don't fill out the census, we're going to lose 2. So we don't want to do that. We want representation in as many places as we can get it. But, you know, before signing off, I just want to tell Lamont, I'm so proud of you. Anything I can do, you know, I'm here for you. And I know we chat, you know, from different times, depending on what the issue is, but keep up the great work. And again, thanks to everyone on the line for supporting John, because again, if you want good people in office, you have to support good people. And Lamont certainly is a good person, has done a great job in his first year. So thank you so much. Thanks for including me. Again, good to see you, Mayor Pete. I'll be in touch. Thank you for supporting John. Thank you, Madam President. I keep saying John Lewis is on the brain. Thank you for supporting Lamont, and good to see you, Madam President. So thanks again, and thank you, everybody.
Well, all right. I guess right now I'll raise a glass. Here, here. Salute. I'll raise a toast to John Lewis and Reverend C.T. Vivian for the life well lived. You can improvise. You can improvise water, orange juice, whatever you have, whatever you have. This is a good time to get your coffee or tea or crumpets or scones, whatever you need right now. This is a good time to get it. I just want to pause because we all know that campaigns and movements and freedom riders need support. And this is a great time for you to give yours tonight. If you can. You know, one thing I learned from President 44, his administration and his fundraising efforts, $5 is fine, $10 is fine, $20 is fine, or many times I just popped in $25 whenever I could. So whatever it is that you can support us with tonight, please do. You can donate to you might get some pen and paper for this, write it down, because you can donate after this hour, tinyurl.com/support Lamont Robinson. tinyurl.com/support Lamont Robinson. Or you can send a check, that's fine, to friends of Elect Lamont Robinson, 5050 South Indiana, 60615. You know what city we're in. 5050 South Indiana, 60615. I also just want to pause again and thank U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth, U.S. Representative Chuy Garcia, U.S. Rep. Danny Davis, Congresswoman Robin Kelly, Illinois Senator Mandy Hunter, Alderman Pat Dow, Madam President Tony Craigwinkle, William Cates. Thank you all for supporting and doing what you can. But for those of us that can do our part, let's do our part here tonight. So I know what you're waiting for. Not me to keep talking, right? You're waiting for me to introduce first our state rep, Lamont Robinson, who we know, but let me give you a few words on him. He's a lifelong Chicagoan who's dedicated his life to giving back to the city through public service. He's a businessman, he's a college professor, and he's the director of a youth mentorship program that my son is a part of. Woo! He's got an undergraduate degree in business marketing from Clark Atlanta, an HBCU, and an MBA from National Louis University. He lives on the south side of Chicago. He provides guidance to young men and women in Chicago, and he helps them to go to college. He is the first out LGBTQ African American is elected, and we're so proud of him for using his voice. The 5th district is rich with potential, says Representative Robinson. He said, my work in Springfield and in the district focuses on social justice, community resources, education, and public safety. And he wants to make sure everyone has the opportunity to live their full potential. Our next conversationalist tonight, Pete Buttigieg. Real excited. He's served as a 2-term mayor in South Bend, Indiana. He was a Democratic candidate for the President of the United States in 2020, a graduate of Harvard University and an Oxford Rhodes Scholar. He was in the U.S. Navy Reserve and became a lieutenant when he was deployed to Afghanistan in 2014. He announced his candidacy for presidency in 2019, and he won the Iowa caucus in 2020. Woohoo! Becoming the first openly gay person to ever win a presidential primary or caucus. Love it. He's the son of Joseph and a beautiful woman, Ann Montgomery. I saw a picture, a beautiful mom. Raised him in South Bend, Indiana, in the same neighborhood that he lives in today. He's got his husband, Chasten. They have rescue dogs. I have one too. There's a Buddy and Truman. And I just love him for it. He left college, found himself in a generation that came of age with school shootings, and this generation that provided the majority of the truth in the conflicts that happened after 9/11. So anyway, we know a lot about Pete Buttigieg, but I just can't wait to hear what he has to say here tonight. So I am not going to read anything else. I'm going to let them do the talking. Please, right now, welcome into your home, Representative Lamont Robinson and presidential candidate 2020, Pete Buttigieg. Woohoo! Let's see. I guess I'll keep going. Let me say, I'm going to kick this off. That's right. I'm running this train here. And I have the questions. You ready? Got your mute off, everybody? Let's go. First question, you guys, think about it. I don't know if you had the questions in advance, but I did. First question, your groundbreaking campaign, this is for Pete Buttigieg, was so exhilarating to millions of Americans, and we will never let you forget how you and your husband, Chasten, inspired us on the campaign trail. Now, since you have left the presidential race, how have you carried forward your message?
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for that introduction, and thanks for the chance to be together. I'm so thrilled to be here to help support Lamont Robinson and make sure that you continue in the leadership that you're showing for the people of Chicago and Springfield and in a bigger national community of elected officials. We need more elected officials like you. We need more elected officials born in 1982, like you and I were. It was an excellent vintage. And you also you represent a generation of Black elected leaders who are becoming such an important and forward-moving force in American politics and life. And I'm so pleased to be reunited with Robin Kelly, too. Congresswoman Robin Kelly, so good to see you. And thanks for everything that you're doing, from the work on the HEROES Act to defending the right to vote. I can't think of a more fitting legacy for John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis, who we all have on our mind right now. I think, we were with him the very last day of my campaign when he came to speak to us in Selma. We didn't even know if he was going to be well enough to leave his home in Atlanta. And all of us were in this crush of people working our way across that bridge, following in his footsteps from 55 years earlier. And then sure enough, this car came out of nowhere. He materialized, and his voice just electrified all of us. I remember tears streaming down my face as he said, don't give up, stay involved, get in that good trouble. And I know that everyone on this call is committed to carrying on that work. But we've lost a giant in this country. To answer your question, I have been discovering just how busy you can get without leaving the four walls of home, as I'm sure Representative Robinson, Congresswoman Kelly, and Dana, everybody here has been finding, because of course the work continues, and it hasn't stopped just because we don't get to engage in the physical gathering that we're used to. I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that Joe Biden is elected the next president of the United States. I believe our country cannot afford 4 more years of Donald Trump. I've been writing, I've been working with a lot of causes that I believe in, but the thing that I'm spending the most time on is an effort called Win the Era. And the biggest effort that we're doing as part of that is to make sure that excellent candidates for office, in addition to the presidency, get the support that they deserve. We looked at races across the country, people running for every level of office, from the United States Senate to sitting governors, all the way through to local office, and we identified 22 candidates across the whole country that we wanted to make sure we spent extra effort and energy, and in particular invited the community of supporters who came together around Pete for America to be part of our effort in making sure that we were there to help. And one of those candidates is, of course, Representative Lamont Robinson, somebody who just lives and breathes the aspirations and the challenges of the people that he serves in South Chicago, somebody who clearly cares so much about his community and is determined through action to get things done. You know, we are seeing just how important the state level of government is, and yet there's not nearly enough attention to the critically important work that's going on in state legislatures, like where Representative Robinson is doing his good work. And that's why I thought it was so important, not only to join the many Chicagoans and neighbors from Illinois who I know are on the call here, but also to invite some of our friends from around the country who I got to know in that incredible presidential run, and make sure that they're paying attention to the generational leadership that Lamont Robinson represents, because his work is so important, not only day after day in Springfield, but I think that he is going to be a force in our generation for many years to come. And it's so important to me that all of us are here in the name of the values that motivated me to run for president, to make sure that we're standing with him too. So that's on what I'm up to, and I'm glad it's created the occasion for us to be getting together virtually. I'm only sorry I'm not able to jump in the car and come gather physically, but as soon as it's safe to, I will welcome the excuse to get back to Chicago as well.
And we'd love to have you. Thank you, Mayor Buttigieg. This next question is for Representative Robinson. So, how have the very unusual events of 2020, that would include the COVID-19 pandemic, the economic collapse, the killing of George Floyd, and the Black Lives Matter movement, how has all that changed the dynamics of your work in the legislature and in the district? Lamont.
Dana, thank you so very much for joining me. It's so good to see you. I'm so honored to also be with my friend, Mayor Pete, in South Bend. We also got a wonderful intro to my mentor, Congresswoman Robin Kelly. And I believe the Madam President is somewhere out there in Zoom, even though I cannot see her. Good to see you this evening. Dana, that's such a important question for all of the things that are going on. And thank you for taking a moment to acknowledge the great work that Representative Lewis has done for us. And the reason that I am in place now as elected official is because of Representative Lewis and my dear fraternity brother, C.T. Vivian, who was right on his side, pushing for us to be able to have rights, which is extremely important. And those rights are being taken for granted every single day. As we move into George Floyd and several other folks that unfortunately have lost their lives because of our police across the country. We have a name here that is Laquan McDonald, who we all remember. Unfortunately, these situations have come across far too often in our communities. And it is taking a moment and listening to our community, listening to the cries of poverty, which is why I ushered in the special session a poverty bill, which really looks at poverty, tries to eradicate it, and looks at ways that we can make sure that we move our communities forward. I want to pause and thank Quinn for her wonderful performance as we started this conversation. We need to listen to our youth, our young folks. Pete and I, Pete mentioned 82. I wish he wouldn't have put that out there. But Pete and I are the same age, but there are some folks that are behind us that we have to listen to. And the cries that of the injustices that are happening all across these yet to be United States. And so, Dana, to your question, I have focused my time on looking at how do we change the trajectory of our communities around policing, which is why I've worked with our Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, the state police, to figure out a way to license police officers. As an insurance agent, I'm licensed in the state of Illinois. And if there's something that I do that is wrong, I can lose my license, which also I can give up or lose my livelihood. And that should be the same for police all across the country, particularly in the state of Illinois. We need to license police in the state of Illinois, which is why I put that bill out, and hopefully we'll get the support to be able to pass that bill in November. We cannot continue to allow Black and brown folks all across the country to die in the custody of police. We have to put an end to this. And so my role as elected official and the trajectory of our country is to figure out ways on how do we stop this. That's one part of it. But then also, how do we make sure that we're ending poverty, which is attached to a lot of the things that we're seeing in our country. And so, Dana, that again has been my focal point over these last few months. And I cannot wait to get back to Springfield, which is why two of my counterparts, Representative Buckner, Representative Tarver, have asked for an emergency special session to get back to Springfield. We cannot wait to get back in November to do the work of the people. We need to get back to work now. So thank you for that question, Dana.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. They want me to get back to work right away. Why aren't our elected officials at work during this catastrophe? I mean, that just is more than amazing to me. All right, second question to Mayor Pete. Figure that out. We live in Illinois, right here in Illinois. We're a blue state. But we still have to make sure that we get out and vote here in Illinois. What can we do in Illinois to support the Democratic presidential ticket nationally and expand the Democratic majority in the U.S. House of Representatives and oust Republicans from control of the U.S. Senate? And of course, along the way, how can we re-elect our own Senator Dick Durbin?
Great question. Every one of these levels of office is connected, and we should not take any vote, any race, any seat for granted. I always say there's no such thing as a permanently red state. That means there's no such thing as a permanently blue state either. We've got to actually be out there doing the work, especially in a year like this, when I think a lot of the political winds right now feel like they're blowing in our direction, if only because Americans have been so disgusted with the failure of leadership in this White House when it comes to dealing with the pandemic. And of course, because the national outpouring of anguish over systemic racial injustice, directly in terms of the police killings of of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and of course with Laquan McDonald and so many others. Chicago and Illinois has so many of its own stories. But beyond police interactions, even beyond the justice system as a whole, so many things that need to change. And we can see that the White House and the Republican Party today are not interested in making that real change. Having said all of that, with this wind at our back and this cry for change, let's remember a couple of things. First of all, we have just been reminded in very blunt fashion how much can change in a matter of 3 or 4 months. So just because races feel like they're going our way at the moment, just because we would win these races if the election were held today, doesn't mean that we can just sit back and feel comfortable that all these things are going to happen in November. There is a long way to go. The other thing to remember is that the mechanics of the elections themselves are going to be more difficult than ever. In many states, we've seen active voter suppression, almost always disproportionately impacting Black, Native, and other voters of color. But also, even where officials are trying to do the right thing, they are pressed for the ability to do things like make sure all of the polling places can be open. You know, we've got to have vote by mail. We've also got to make sure that there are safe ways to vote in person. And there just aren't enough poll workers right now because not enough people from my generation and an even younger generation are stepping forward into this volunteer role that most people think of as something that is only for retirees. All of that is putting our elections on the line. And so we can't sit back, even when it comes to the elections just being well run. Then we got to make sure our candidates get through. And that's whether they're in a seat that's considered safe or like our friend Lauren Underwood, who we're supporting as well with Win the Era, folks who we know are in those razor thin districts that are going to be so tight. We've got to make sure at every level that we're expanding that majority. Now, if folks have the ability to contribute, of course, there are races around the country where we can make a difference. But whether you're able to do that financially or not, we also have to lift our voices, especially because we can't gather in person. That's why being able to reach out through social media, being able to pick up the phone and talk to somebody that you know or who might listen to you before they listen to an ad about why it's important to vote and why we need them to vote, for great leaders like Lamont Robinson, like Robin Kelly, like Dick Durbin, like Joe Biden, people at every level who we need to support. This is an all hands on deck moment, and we're going to remember for the rest of our lives what we were doing in 2020. So shame on us if we get caught getting comfortable about any race, no matter what the polls are telling us.
Yeah, I received that. Absolutely. Rock that vote. Rock the vote. Representative Robinson. Mayor Pete just said we have to lift our voices. One measure in particular where you lifted your voice and sponsored was the Intergenerational Poverty Act that's now a law. Can you explain why you wrote it, what it does, and how it will help you and your constituents in Chicago and all over Illinois? Did you hear me?
Nope. Did Lamont freeze?
Lamont.
We might have lost his connection. Let me just say so while we're waiting for Lamont to get back on. Let me just mention one of the reasons I admire his work so much with calling attention directly to poverty. You know, in politics, you're supposed to talk about the middle class. This is what every political consultant will tell every candidate. Talk about the middle class, which is, of course, important. We really care about the middle class, and so many of us see the middle class dream slipping away. But it's not as fashionable to talk about poverty, even though more than 40% of Americans would be considered low asset or low income or poor. And so the moral leadership that Representative Robinson is showing by specifically naming and confronting poverty, even if it's not considered as politically rewarding, is so important. I see it looks like he's right back online, so I'll toss it back over to him.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's like nobody wants to say poor. Nobody wants to even acknowledge the poor people. Reverend, can you hear me a lot?
Oh, he's muted.
Are you here? Well, that's okay. We'll go right back to Mayor Pete.
All right.
Okay, Mayor Pete, can you hear me, Lamont?
I think
Yes,
we got
I can.
Lamont back.
Okay, I think you're back. Lamont, I was just really recapping your Intergenerational Poverty Act, and Mayor Pete kind of piggybacked and talked about why it's so very important that you name it, that it's not like, we're sweeping over. You named it, the Poverty Act. So the question is, and it's now a law, thank you very much. Can you explain why you wrote it and how it will help in Chicago and all over Illinois?
So Dana, I have, as you well know, you are a Southsider, a very, very diverse district. The district encompasses the Gold Coast of Chicago, which has per capita the highest real estate in Chicago, but it goes along the lakefront to Robin Kelly's district, the South Shore. And so it really is a tale of two cities, high net worth and low income, all in one district. I represent 100,000 folks. And for me, when I walk my district and talk to constituents, I see poverty, I see despair, I see lack of quality housing, lack of quality food. The schools that are on the north end of my district and the Gold Coast do not look like the schools on the south end of my district in Woodlawn and Inglewood and South Shore. And so for me as a legislator, really when we look at what is going on in Chicago around violence, I believe it is attached to poverty. And so my thought was, how do we eradicate poverty and really study it and get to the bottom of why we have intergenerational poverty? Poverty that happens through 2 or 3 generations. And so in order for our city to move forward and lose the name of having a tale of two cities, we have to figure out how to end poverty. We have to make sure that we have adequate education, adequate health care, quality housing. And those are things that unfortunately we have issues in not only my district, but across the entire state. And so this bill is, again, to not only study poverty, but to put resources into eradicating poverty. And I'm very happy that the governor, J.B. Pritzker, signed this bill. And so, again, looking forward to getting back to work, hopefully before November, to make sure that I can put together a council of folks that will, again, be able to, again, make sure that not only do we study this, but we eradicate poverty.
I love it. Thank you very much. Got a lot of work ahead of you. Got a lot of work ahead of you. Mayor Pete, there are 3 critical national issues before us at the moment. And what I see tying them together is leadership or lack of leadership. How do you think things would have been different today regarding COVID, the COVID-19 pandemic, the resulting economic collapse, the national response to the killing of George Floyd, if Joe Biden had been president?
Oh, it would be extremely different. Look, some of these problems would have come to confront us regardless. The question of systemic racism and police violence has been with us in some way, shape, or form for 400 years. We struggled as a country under President Obama. We will struggle under President Biden too, but we would have leadership that would call on America to rise to meet the moment. You know, another thing that rhymed so importantly between what the late Congressman John Lewis used to say and what Joe Biden says all the time is the idea of the soul of the nation, the idea that leadership is not just about policies, but about the values that are carried forward in leadership. And as so many Black voices rose up to speak the truth that they have been often speaking at the top of their lungs for generations, but in many ways are being heard differently and better heard in this painful season, having a president who would see that as a moment to move the ball forward, not just with the needed police reforms like the licensing requirements that Representative Robinson is so wisely talking about. The idea that somebody who has the powers of arrest and the life and death powers of a police officer is in many ways subject in so many parts of the country to less by way of official professional expectations than somebody in order to become a barber or in order to be in the insurance profession Lamont is in. Shows you that we've got to change. I think Joe Biden would be taking this moment not as one to divide us, but as one to bring us together. And when it comes to the coronavirus pandemic, look, the president may not have created this virus, but leadership made all the difference in the world. And we can tell by looking around the world at all of the other countries that may have had terrible challenges early on, but figured out a way to do something about it because they understood the importance of things like testing, things that Congresswoman Kelly and her colleagues fought for funding to do more of, because it's part of how you can reopen safely. The president is opposed to testing because he thinks it makes him look bad. And that is the level that we've sunk to in terms of the leadership. That is really a life and death question for all of us. So there's no question that our country would be so much better off if we were under a President Biden, or indeed if Hillary Clinton had been elected president. But there's no point looking back into the past. It's 2020, and the good news is the moment of maximum power where the people get to decide where things go next. That moment is coming up, and it's coming up fast in November.
That's right. So I guess what you're saying, it's time for all of us to get into some good trouble.
That is exactly right.
That's right. We all need a little good trouble in our lives right now. Thank you so much, Mayor Pete. One more question. Mayor Pete, what race are you really excited about right now, other than Lamont's board?
I was going to say, I'm excited right here to be supporting Lamont, but I would encourage folks to check out our website, wintheera.com. You can see the 22 fantastic candidates that we're backing. 21 in addition to Representative Robinson. And I would also encourage you to let us know. We may be in a position to support a few more candidates going into the fall, and we're always keeping our ear to the ground. I'm excited about candidates who are pioneering, candidates who represent the first in their district or in their state, and Representative Robinson is an example of that. I'm excited about candidates who are bold, who are putting forward ideas that are going to help us not just get through this moment, but shape the future that's on us. That's why we call it Win the Era. We don't just have an election to win. We got to make sure the era that's opening up in front of us is a good one and not a dark one for this country. I'm excited about candidates who live the kind of values that we talked about and stood for in our campaign. We like to call them the rules of the road. Not just political values, but values about how we treat each other and how we come to politics. All of those are alive in each of the campaigns that we're backing. And there's so many deserving candidates. We couldn't get to nearly all of the ones that we wanted to, but I hope you'll check out the fantastic roster of candidates we're backing right now at wintheera.com.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned firsts, and you like supporting firsts in your district. And, Lamont, Representative Robinson has definitely enjoyed a few firsts. There was a funding for a South Side LGBTQ center. Yay, that's a first. The Youth Prep Act to fight the spread of HIV/AIDS, and so much more. Representative Robinson, what are your goals, and what are some of the issues that you plan to focus on during your next term?
Dana, I've been very fortunate, very similar to Mayor Pete, to have a very supportive family. Many folks in our community do not have that support, particularly in the African American community. And so I thought it was extremely important that the LGBT community, specifically the Black LGBT community, has a place to call home, which is why I secured $15 million to build an LGBTQ center in my district. This community center will not only have a healthcare component, and I'm very happy. I do see my friend David Munyar out there, who is the president and CEO of Howard Brown, but also a space where organizations that have already been doing the work on the South and West Side as it relates to the LGBT community can have a place to also call their own, to be able to come and have events, to have a place where folks can come and take courses, maybe GED courses, maybe investment courses. Also, housing. I mentioned a little earlier that it's extremely important that we have quality housing. Mayor Pete mentioned something a little while ago about COVID. In the state of Illinois, I'm sad to say that we still see high numbers of COVID cases in the African American community. And if the center was open today, we could be able to do testing at the center. I'm happy to again to thank my friends at Howard Brown, because we had COVID testing outside of my district office on Friday. Why is it important? We need community partners like Howard Brown that will be able to go out in the community and provide care for folks that unfortunately cannot get access to care, which is why the center is so extremely important, not only for the LGBT community, but for the South Side. Also to bring jobs, which is extremely important to my community. So I'm very, very happy that we're getting this center off the ground. We want this center to have community input, which is why we have a steering committee led by Pride Action Tank. And so please go to prideactiontank.com. We want to hear from you. We want this center to be community focused. And if there's some things that you want to see in this community center, we need to hear from you. And if, in fact, you want to share that information, is extremely important as well, because again, we need as much community input as possible to make sure this community center is a success, not only, again, for the LGBT community, but for the overall community. We want everyone to be able to come to this center and feel at home and have a place to go to get adequate health care, to have a place to come for community meetings. And so I'm honored that the caucus leadership has elevated this. I'm also appreciative of the city of Chicago, who I had a call with last week to put plans together for sites in the 5th District. And so the ball is rolling on this. We just need our Governor, J.B. Pritzker, to also prioritize this center that way that we can get this center up and running in the next 2 to 3 years. And so, Dana, thank you for allowing me to focus in on this special place that will be housed in the 5th District.
Thank you very much. You answered the question. Now listen, it wouldn't be fair if we didn't have one question from the audience. And we do have one before we get out of here. Just one question, and I'll pose it to both Mayor Pete and or Representative Robinson. And the question is from Mark Ishwan. Question is, COVID and 400 years of racial injustice have caused widespread mental health and substance abuse challenges. What can the Illinois General Assembly and Congress do immediately to get resources to community behavioral health organizations, especially to serve people of color and the African Americans in particular? And we are hearing a lot about the high mental health issues. I won't even say who we saw go crazy on. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, Lamont and Robin and Pete, it's Mark and Micah.
Congresswoman Kelly unmuting herself. So Congresswoman, please.
Well, we have a bill called the HEROES Act that we're trying to get passed, and there's a multitude of things in that bill. It's already passed in the House, and we're waiting for Mitch McConnell to have a heart. As I mentioned earlier, we think they're melting down a little bit because there's a lot of Republican senators that are up for re-election, and they're hearing it from people in their states, and there's a lot of pressure being put on. But in that bill, there's money for treatment for COVID, there's money for mental health, and then there's other things that we have built into appropriations that would deal with this issue. So we just, right now, you know, the Dems are in the majority in the House, but we're not in the Senate. So That's how we, we got to vote and make some changes so we can get some things passed. But hopefully, before we leave, definitely by the end of the first week in August, we hope to have this bill passed. It won't look exactly like we passed it, but hopefully most of it will pass, and then we can get money to centers and into the neighborhoods.
Thanks, Robin. This is Mark Ishak. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Hey,
you.
nice to see you. Mark Ishak from Thresholds. That was my question. Thanks for reading it, Dana. And thanks, Mayor Pete. You can't see me, but I'm sitting here with Micah, who you know very well. And Lamont, you can't see me either, but you know Micah, and Robin knows me. Thank you all. And, one of the things, Robin, is that places like Thresholds and Metropolitan Family and Heartland and Rosecrans and other big organizations were completely left out of PPP because of our size.
Right.
We have more than 500 employees.
I know. I talked to the Y about that.
Yeah, and the YMCA. We've been shut out of everything, and we are part of the backbone. More than half of our clients are African American. Our staff is principally African American. We serve people of color, and our great organizations that are in the fight have been left out of federal PPP because of politics. And so I know the three of you are superstars, and if Toni Preckwinkle's still on here, she's a fourth superstar. So thank you for fighting for us. But,
and there will be another bill, so we'll continue the fight.
But my real question is not about saving Thresholds, but about how we are going to address mental health and substance abuse that is ravaging communities of color, particularly African Americans. There was a great article in the Wall Street Journal this morning about this, and I just feel like if the feds and the state don't even step up further, Pritzker and Grace Ho and all these folks have been fantastic, but we got to take this to a new level if we are going to literally save our communities. I'll shut up. Hey, Mayor Pete, and hey, Lamont.
Thanks, Mark and Micah. Thanks for being part of this, and thanks for your attention to this too. It's so critically important, especially for communities of color, and it's only more pronounced with the what's going on with COVID. We know so much of it's about funding, so much of it's about resources, and it can work. In my state, some really encouraging news today. A hotline was connected up to 211 for people who are experiencing crisis to be able to call. We'll see if it actually works, but I know it only became possible because of the federal funds that Congress was able to deliver. So we need a federal, state, local level of partnership on everything from trauma-informed policy and care to making sure that we've got the bigger institutional resources and supporting the organizations out there that have been doing the work day in, day out for years. I'm so glad you're raising attention to that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So listen, we thank you so much. I just want to pause and say thank all of you for joining us here tonight. Thank you, Mayor Pete, Congresswoman Kelly. Thank you, Lamont, for putting this on. Our poet, Corin, thank you so much for participating here tonight. Before we get out of here, I do have to one more time remind you that we need some support, and we need you to support this movement by going to tinyurl.com/support Lamont Robinson, or you can mail a check to Friends of Lamont Robinson, Friends of to elect Lamont Robinson at 5050 South Indiana Avenue in Chicago, 60615. We've got to find a way to get in some good trouble, you all. Yes. Thank you again to Mayor Pete. And I'm going to ask State Rep Lamont Robinson to give us some closing remarks, and then I will take us out of here. Go ahead, Lamont.
Dana, thank you so very, very much for assisting us this evening. A great discussion, and I just want to thank a few folks. Quinn, thank you again for your wonderful performance this evening. We needed to hear that, and we need to all continue to support our young people as well as the art. Dana, I want to thank you and Congresswoman Kelly for all of her support over the years. My dear friend, Mayor Pete, many of you know that I supported Mayor Pete's candidacy, was one of the first elected to do so. And I know that he will continue to do great work, and thank his team, the New Era, for all of their hard work for making this night possible, as well as Philip Jones, my chief of staff, who worked hard on making this happen, and the Chappelle group, media group, for making sure that we got this going without a hitch. To my host committee for your support, and all of you, thank you for joining in. Thank you for supporting my candidacy for state rep. Many of you know that I support other candidates all across the country, and it is important that we continue to do this great work, not only for the 5th District, but again, across the country. And so thank you again all for your support. Have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. God bless and stay well.
Thank you. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to get out, rock that vote. We're going to support State Rep Lamont Robinson by donating to tinyurl.com/support Lamont Robinson, or you can mail your check to Friends to Elect Lamont Robinson at 5050 South Indiana. Make sure you do your part. Get into some good trouble. I'm Dana Devine. I've been your host, and I had a great time. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Ms. Dana Devine. You can find me on Facebook. Tell me what you thought about this at Dana Devine, DIVINE. I would love to be your friend. I'll see you on Sunday morning, 95.1 FM Chicago, playing the best in gospel music. See you then. Thank you, Mayor Pete. Thank you, Representative Lamont, Congresswoman Kelly. Be the rest of your day, be the best of the day. Thanks for joining us.